أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا والشفيع ذنوبنا سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد
اللهم صل على محمد
وعلى بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين صاحب العصر والزمان خليفة الرحمن إمام الإنس والجان ولعن الله وعداهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to day 2 of our 5-day program. As I described last night, we are looking to do a little bit of a different format in these last 5 days of Ayyam al-Adha. Today we'll have a talk on a topic, inshallah, on the whiteboard. Tomorrow will be an actual classic majlis from the minbar for our 11th Imam Shahadat. And then the last 2 nights, Wednesday and Thursday, we'll resume back with this format here. The format's meant to be a very open, interactive format, a classroom environment. So questions and discussions and topics, of course, are open. Hopefully, based on yesterday, all of you will also now get to be a little bit more active than you were yesterday. Last time, if you remember, we spoke a little bit about the chain of thought. And we talked about the fact that our thoughts are very, very important to us, and what triggers our thoughts, how the thoughts can lead to action. Action becomes our essence. All that was last night, inshallah. As described in the flyers, today I want to look at the topic of the Nafs, inshallah. And look at the power of the Nafs, the various dimensions of the Nafs, and what is it that we are trying to aspire to be. Before that, just for reference purposes, this discussion today is based on 2 different references. Those of you who want to do some further reading on this topic, a very important topic naturally. And I drew a lot of my material today from these resources that are taught in the Hawza. Number 1 is Imam Khomeini's chair hadith, or 40 hadith. Hadith number 1. Number 2 is a book called Jami al-Sadat, called The Collector of Felicities. Not the best translation of Jami al-Sadat, but that's okay. Both these are available on alislam.org. Okay? Very, very good translations on both of them, and a good read for those who want further along this discussion on the topic of the Nafs. Okay? Like I said, it's a very interactive, casual environment. Feel free to stop me and put your hand up or blurt out whatever you want to say. Just keep it respectful, that's all. So, first of all, let's look at a few different terminologies used in the Quran. One is the idea of a nafs. One is the idea of a qalb, or a heart. One is the idea of a spirit, or a ruh. Okay? Are these things talking about 3 different entities? You will see and you will notice various ayat in the Quran, up and down the Quran, referring to various things. Right? وَالنَّفْسِ وَمَا سَوَاهَا فَالْحَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. Right? That this is the nafs that we have divinely inspired it. We have given it an ilham between fujur and taqwa, between right and between wrong. The one who purifies this nafs is successful. The one who allows it to be corrupted is not. Right? So the nafs is talked about in the Quran. We talk about the heart. يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. On the day when nothing will benefit you, not your property nor your children, what will benefit you is this qalb salim. Okay? Or in another verse when it comes to the ruh, talks about وَإِذَا سَوَيْتُ وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي فَقَوْا لَهُ سَاجِدِينَ. That we created the insan using form, using a body. Then he says, Allah says, I blew into this insan from my spirit. At that moment fall into sajda. So these are three different entities that really are pointing to one internal reality. They have three different purposes behind them. And while I don't have time to expand on all three, it's enough for all of you to know that these are not three separate things inside of us. They in fact are the exact same thing, but they have different roles to play. For example, the nafs is that dimension that hosts the animalistic dimension of the insan. Right? We are angelic, we are animalistic. Correct? There's a part of that that's haywani, as you say in Farsi and Urdu, and a part of us that is ma'anawi or ruhani, as you would say. There are, when it comes to our desires, our anger, all that resides inside the house of the nafs. The qalb and the heart is that fluctuator inside of us. Actually, the word qalaba in Arabic literally means to fluctuate from one state to another. Ya muqallibal qulub. The fluctuator of hearts we call Allah. That's when sometimes we run towards the musalla, sometimes we are dragged towards the musalla. Right? Sometimes we want to worship Allah, sometimes it's very tough to worship Allah. That fluctuation between iqbal and idbar happens where? At this qalb idea. Okay? So taqwa resides here, where we're trying to always keep the heart focused towards Allah. The spirit and the ruh is that angelic dimension. Okay? Where the tawfiq of Allah resides. Okay? Where our purest intentions reside, where we want to serve the community, serve our family, serve ourselves. Right? That's really where we use this to springboard ourselves back to Allah. Right? What made the insan qabil sajda was not the body, but the moment Allah says, وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي, when I blew into him my spirit, then he became worthy of prostration. Right? So if that's the case, then we have to ensure that we return back to Allah, right? وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. We return back to Allah in that same state to some degree of the spirit and the angelic nature. Okay? But all of this points to one reality of the internal dimension of the insan. Okay? Let's not be confused when we hear about these terminologies in the Quran or come across various ayat. They're very, very geared towards the idea that this is where everything lies. So for example, if this is where the tawfiq of Allah lies, this is where the waswasa of shaitan lies. Right? All points to the internal reality. Questions so far? Okay. Oh, look at this. Went from 0 to 3 in one day, person. MashaAllah. Okay. So today we'll talk about the nafs, inshallah. The nafs. I'm going to use an analogy like I always do, so that all of you can understand, or I can understand this a little bit better. And I'll use my colors to make sure you guys don't fall asleep on me. Okay? So, we're going to call this corporate nafs. Okay? The nafs is a corporation. Throughout tonight, we will refer to it as a corporation. The corporation has departments in it, has teams in it. Correct? The corporation of the nafs also has 4 departments to it. Universal across the board, every human being has this. It's not about Muslim or non-Muslim or Shia or Sunni. If you are born as a human being, you have 4 departments inside your corporation called the Nafs. Okay, again, all coming from these 2 sources, if you want further explanation. We will go through every single one of these 4, their roles, their benefits, their struggles. At the end, we'll make a corporate structure, an org structure, to find out who reports to who and how should everything be done. Okay? So start salawat ala Muhammad wa alihi. Let's go quick. Is this red okay for you? Video, you can see red? What does that say? Depth, thank you. Department number 1 is a department called Al-Quwwat Ghadabiyya. Department of repulsion. Or Ghadab is anger. Corporations have the marketing department, they have HR, they have legal, they have what else? They have sales, they have IT, they have support, they have all this. The first department of the corporation of Nafs is called the Corporation of Anger and Repulsion. Okay? Every single one of these departments has a virtuous side to it and a vicious side to it. Anger is no different. The one thing I want all of you to understand is the idea that Islam is a very, very natural religion. It never asks you to go away from things that are natural to you. Now, mind you, there are some things that we have to fight sometimes. Sometimes my youth out there have this urge to do this act or that act. Islam says to fight that urge. It does not say to ignore that urge. There's a big difference. For example, in the Christian world, they'll ask their saints and their priests and their cardinals to be celibate, right? To not marry. Now things are changing. But they would ask them not to marry, because to them, lust and desire is an evil trait. So they thought, you know what, we don't want him to move away from God, so you don't get married. Fight the urge in your entire life, and that's not very natural. Or another idea is that when you get angry, swallow the anger every single time. So if somebody slaps your right cheek, you say, it's okay, here's my left cheek, go ahead. Somebody tramples your house or bulldozes your house or disrespects your wife or, God forbid, just, walk away. When in reality, Islam says no, these emotions are natural. It's not about denying the emotion, it's about expressing it properly. So this discussion is not about the existence of the anger, it's about the expression of the anger. It's a big difference. Right? So if somebody is to disrespect God, we should be angry. When we see the dhulm happening in Yemen, in Bahrain, in Palestine, in Iraq, and so we should get angry. Right? When somebody draws a cartoon against a prophet, we should get angry. Right? We're not those that others, that cartoons or movies are allowed to disrespect our prophets, and we are quiet. No. No. So anger is like that. Anger actually has a virtuous side to it. Allah has given us ghadab, anger, and there are a positive side to anger. Okay? Again, existence, not so much expression. What is it that anger brings to the table? From anger, we get different qualities that are very, very important. For example, the virtuous side of anger breeds courage, number 1. Okay? From ghadab comes shuja'at. So for example, if the enemy is right in front of you, and you have to now create this courageous side inside of you, that comes from a base of anger towards the enemy. A sense of resistance. Very much related to courage. The idea of maqawimat, istiqamat in the Quran. Inna alladhina qalu rabbuna Allahu thumma istaqamu. Quran says. The ones who say that my Lord is Allah and they rise up or they stay firm to where they are. Okay? Again, this comes from a sense of anger. Don't think of anger like somebody, slapping somebody or somebody. No, anger is this idea of repulsion. Yeah. Yeah, istiqamah means to resist. To stand firm where you are. To resist the need to bend or apologize or break in front of the eyes of the enemy. Okay? Can we ask you guys to just come a little bit forward, please, and a little bit this way if you don't mind? As people are rolling in.
खुशनूद इमाम ज़माना बावाज़ बुलंद सलावत
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
I'll try to go as quickly as possible. If I go too fast, stop me, of course. But I have 4 different departments to go through, and my khulasa, my summary at the end, is extremely important. But that summary won't make sense until I get through these 4 departments. Okay? Number 3, virtue side is that we have a sense of self-respect. If somebody disrespects me, my family, my home, my khandan, my lineage, my honor, anger comes in and says, look, don't take that. Okay. Now, I'm not saying for you to lose control of yourself. No, of course not. But I'm saying it's okay to feel angry sometimes. Right? In fact, Hadith says if you don't feel angry towards the enemies of Allah, there's something wrong with your iman. The whole premise of tabarra, which is wajib in Islam, has been highly misunderstood in the deen. Tabarra is to move away from the enemies of Allah and the Ahlul Bayt. To disassociate, even to the point where you give them bad dua. Allah, please remove your mercy from them, right? La'anat or la'an is not cursing or swearing, right? The deen would never allow you to curse anybody, or swear at anybody, or allow your zaban or your tongue to go all the way down. But it is the idea that la'an is what? Asking Allah deprive them of your mercy. So dua, right? So that you have that ijazah, you have that permission in the deen to do that. Against who? The enemies of the Ahlul Bayt and of Allah. Right? So we're not, we're not this wishy-washy, hunky-dory religion sometimes. That, okay, you burned down my mother's door, but it's okay, I still love you. No, I'm angry. But expression of anger is a completely different topic. That's when we have to really now look at ourselves and our self-respect. But there is an avenue of self-respect. These are all virtues now. All virtues. Come from where? Come from anger. To a certain degree, yaqeen, certainty, comes from a sense of anger. What I mean by that is that if you do, you do end up having this individual who's constantly, disrespecting your religion, disrespecting your acts of worship, disrespecting your train of thought, then you will have this idea that this now forces you to look further and deeper into the religion. One of the best things to happen to us from the Wahhabi sect, the positive idea of Wahhabism is, it's forced our youth now to look into the religion deeper. Because they want to prove them wrong. Now sometimes they take on their cape and they take on too much, and they want to debate every Wahhabi online. I say, stop, don't have to worry about Facebook debates. But it is the idea that, look, why is it that they hate us so much? They ask me, why do they hate us so much? It forces me and them to have this conversation. And they build what? They build yaqeen in their Shia faith. Because of what? Of anger. Right? From ghadab, from anger. Okay? Is your hand up? No. It started, it came back down. Vicious side is obvious. Right? Somebody who is anger obviously loses control. There's a lot of depressing things happening right now in our communities that I come across that really keep me up at night. A lot of that. One of them, of course, is the future of the deen of these kids. Keeps me up at night. The other one is that we have a lot of issues in our marriages. And I thought that the issues that perhaps maybe, immigrant couples had back home, I thought, okay, that's maybe a product of that society. But then sometimes when I hear about the issues that happen with guys my age, born and raised beside me here in this city, divorce rates and physical abuse, for example, like bruises on the bodies of their wives, from guys that are my age, born and raised in Toronto, they know better, educated, they run multi-million-dollar businesses. That stuff really, really upsets me. It depresses me to know that, you know, the insan, no matter how successful he or she is, how educated, these are PhDs, doctors, right? To the point where their wife has to put on extra layers of makeup to hide the bruises on their face. It's not some village in some eastern country, right? This is a husband who was born and raised here. And it happens when you allow yourself to lose control. Right? Anger is a vicious animal, Imam Ali says. It's a beast, as I said yesterday. Anger weakens the intellect. It weakens the aql. Naturally, when you're angry, it overtakes everything from head to toe. From your zaban to your tongue to your actions to everything, to your mind, everything. When things calm down, as you go back to say sorry to that person, you end up saying things like, you know what, that wasn't me, I'm sorry. Right? Or you end up punching a wall, or God forbid punching somebody else, and you end up losing control. Selfish, or even the idea of self-absorbed, and I'll explain what that means in a moment. Okay. Especially when it comes to the deen. Hadith says that sometimes the most difficult test that Allah gives us, very carefully please, is when we are extremely happy or extremely upset. Be it sad or angry. That's when the test really comes. Right? I've given these examples in my notes before. You know, for example, extreme happiness is that this is your first daughter's wedding inside the whole khandan, the whole wedding, the whole family. You have one daughter. You know, you sit the entire time for this one daughter's wedding, and it is, mashallah, 7, 8 programs. Right? Right? So what do? We go to God and we press pause on God, and we go have our 8 programs. MashaAllah, 8 full programs. Mixed gathering, music, no hijab. And we come back after the walima, and we press play again on God. We don't? Sometimes, you know, people who are, you know, presidents of Jamaats, people who are behind the Imam every single time in Jamaat prayer, people who read du'as, big beards, nice big zakhmi on their forehead, front and center in the dance show of the daughter's wedding. You say anything, oh, you guys like that we're crying and Rona, Dona, Kala, Wala, that's all you guys want. You mullahs. You don't want us to have any happiness. No. That's the moment where people see, what is it that you will do? That's the moment. And on this side of grief and anger, we look at the idea that yes, you're angry, you're grieving, right? Especially during Fatimah sometimes, right? The posts from social media, the videos from social media, you let your zaban let loose, right? This gali, that gali, and this person and that person, or in Imam Hussein's gham. Right? We throw out the fatwas of the Maraji, we just take that gham and grief in our own hands, right? Doesn't matter how Islam looks, it's okay, my grief, it's my Hussein. Not the case. We become self-absorbed to the point where, you know what, he's my Mawla, I can grieve with him how I want to grieve with him. But the moment that your grief now taints the religion, then your grief is secondary to the image of the religion. Right? Right? But that's when you're angry. So now you have a manja come in giving a fatwa saying maybe it's better if you grieve for Hussein this way, and we say you keep your fatwa in your pocket. Does that happen from the member? Apne fatwa aap jehn mein rakhiye. That's not a jumla from the member? Yeah, it is. Absolutely. Unfortunate. It's a different workshop altogether, inshallah. The last one is that you becoming animalistic. Right? Meaning what? That you become somebody who is completely, what's that word I'm looking for? Instinctive. Okay? The moment the emotion comes, act on it. Okay? That happens enough, you have a tough time controlling it. Okay? This is all what? This is all department of anger. Al-quwwati ghadabiyya. Ghadab, it's in Urdu, Farsi, and Arabi, means anger. This one department is department of anger. So far so good?
Yeah.
Okay. Department number 2. Department of attraction. Yeah. Anger, desire. Al-quwwati shahwiyya. One is ghadab, one is shahwa. And again, shahwa has its virtuous side to it, which might be shocking for many of you. Let me maintain my color scheme. And of course it has a vicious side to it. So you tell me, help me out here. I'm tired of talking. I'm talking all day. What are some of the virtuous sides or signs of desire? Because so far all we've ever heard, especially my young guys, that desire is evil. It's evil. Is there a virtuous side to desire? If so, what is it? Anybody? One virtuous side of desire.
To help out the community or society.
Let's talk about a more internal attraction. Yeah. Yes.
Passion?
Excellent. Passion for what?
Passion for interests of yours?
Oh, I need more. You started off good.
Like,
Yeah, tell me.
maybe like your career or something like that.
Okay. I like the word passion. Let's say success. Because sometimes we hear shahwa and desire and we think of physical desire. Lust and sin. Not always the case. This need we have to succeed, as you said, this passion we have, comes from desire. Great. That's good. What else?
Popularity.
Who said that? Popularity. In terms of acceptance by everybody else?
Position.
So can I say respect? Is that okay? Thank you. What else? Think about your families. Think about your wife. Or wives. Not knowing who in here. No idea. You never know nowadays. Yeah. Because we have very beautiful hadiths, and if this was a man's only discussion, I would talk about those hadiths that really talk about why do you think it's half of your deen? Why is marriage half of your deen? Any newlyweds here in the past 3 years that you've been married? No? Yes? Sorry, that's okay. Don't be ashamed of it. It's okay. Alhamdulillah. When did you get married? 2 years ago, mashallah. Okay. What's the virtuous side of desire?
Acceptance.
Sorry?
Acceptance.
We have that as number 2, respect. Inspiration. Let's keep it simple. How about love? For family. How about the idea of mawaddah, which means compassion. Right? The love you have for your daughter or for your son, the love you have for your spouse. It's a beautiful thing, right? Right? Hadith says that one 15-minute conversation with your wife, 15 minutes a day, to talk to her just about anything. Put the phone away, put the geo away, just you and her. That's equal to the sawab of i'tikaf inside the masjid of Rasulullah.
Once a week.
Is it that hard? It shouldn't be that hard. I'm not saying to start a timer and then kids start, okay, I'm 15 minutes up on this. No, I'm not saying that. Right? I'm not saying that. You should. I mean, think about it. We should. If this was a marriage seminar, maybe I should have one. But it's important that we understand how we communicate as men and as women. Right? Men are, as I often say, result-driven communicators. We want to fix everything. We want to come to a conclusion. We want, if after a 2-hour talk with your wife and there's 3 problems that are identified, tomorrow we want to fix those problems. And she's like, just stop. I don't want you to fix my problems. You're not my superhero. I want you to listen to my process. Right? When I talk to you and you listen, it's half the solution. Because they're process-driven communicators. The process of talking to you for an hour, 2 hours is huge for her. But we're like, okay, what's the natija of this? Okay, what can we do now tomorrow? The takeaways, the action items. She's like, no, stop. Just listen to what I'm saying. Right? Don't talk to your mom and say, call me. No, don't. Leave all that alone. Right? That's all this idea of love for your family. So many ahadith talk about the idea. A mustahab for you on Fridays to bring something small home for your wife for a gift. Something small. Not a car or a dozen rolls, something small from a dollar store. On the way you found, her favorite muffin from Tim Hortons, let's say, for example. Whatever the case may be. Small, a gesture of love. Right? A hadith about that. Ulama have written PhDs on marriages in Islam. Right? All that comes from desire. Desire is a beautiful thing. Hadith says it is one of the biggest blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To fulfill that desire in the halal way is one of the biggest blessings that we have. Yes.
How it comes into desire? You're talking about the challenges. Like what challenges I have. Going against my will. How it comes into
What's going against your will?
Yeah. You want a man to behave in a different way the way it is programmed. So
No.
exactly what I got.
Yeah. No, I think that if this love is truly developed with your spouse, it shouldn't be against your will to talk to her for 15 minutes.
No, not that. He's reaching to the conclusion after the conversation.
Yes.
That men behave in that way, right? And you say that you just listen and just go ahead.
Right,
Yes,
right.
That part
So I was explaining the hadith, the idea that why is it so emphasized to speak to your wife, to converse with your wife, to talk, especially if you have a wife who's at home all day and you are at work all day. And she waits for you to walk into that house at 6 or 7 p.m. Now you walk in, she hasn't talked to you all day. She's not, and if there are small kids at home, all she's heard is goo goo gaga all day. Right? She's waiting for some adult conversation. Now you walk in, you say, I'm tired, but don't leave me alone. No, he's like, just talk for 15 minutes. What happened to your day? How was your day? Blah, blah, blah. Right? I'm just explaining to you the idea that this love comes from the desire, and that love has an immense impact on our iman. But good point, thank you. The vicious side, of course, is obvious. Right? We become satanic. Right? It's called feeding the beast. He says, Imam Ali says that, alayhi salatu wa salam, Allahumma. Can you be my timer for me if you don't mind? There's no clock here. So 8:55, can you just give me a heads up? Thanks. Okay? So, feeding the beast meaning what? That Islam, at the same time, is very, very strict about desire and shahwa in the haram way, as you know. As I mentioned last night, it's very strict when it comes to non-mahram individuals, be it man or woman. Forget touch, there's no glancing across, there's no inappropriate talks. Even on text, no LOLs, no emojis with women who are not your mahram. Because you don't want to awaken the beast, meaning what? If you feed that desire its haram food, it'll enjoy it naturally, and it'll want more. The more you feed it, the hungrier it gets. To the point where you won't have enough food to feed it. It becomes a beast inside of you that completely controls you. Right? So you have athletes and celebrities who have the most beautiful women at home in terms of wives. But they feel the need to go out and have extra curricular activities outside the house because that's not enough for them. Or you have individuals who make, there are athletes who make $35 million a year to shoot a basketball. And they still have gambling issues. Right? It means what? That they fed the beast, but the beast can never be truly full. You become satanic. Right? You just look for things to fulfill, right? You become, completely unfocused, right? You become irreligious. You actually believe that religion is there to make my life, a disaster. All I hear from these kids nowadays is, Islam is no. This is haram, that's not jaiz, that's not allowed. What is allowed in Islam? When you start to look at through the eyes of shahwa in the vicious world, then yes, religion is a series of close that door, close this door, close that door. But when you understand that Islam is not saying to turn the desire off, it's saying to guide it properly, then the whole discussion is a little bit different. So there are virtues of desire. Please, do not think that shahwa and lust is all evil. Other religions believe that. We don't believe that. For my husbands in the audience, for one drop of ghusl that comes off your body, they say angels now ask for 1,000 of your sins to be forgiven per drop of water. Beautiful, right? Okay, 2 departments down. Department number 3. Department of what's called, to me, creativity. Wahan. Okay, this is ghazab, this is shahwa, this is wahan. Al-quwwati wahamiyya. Very difficult to translate waham in English. Okay, but waham is that idea of creativity, your creative juices flowing, good and bad. This equally has a virtuous side and a vicious side to it as well. Virtue and vice. One virtuous side of creativity is suspicion. One vicious side is suspicion. Ajib. What do I mean by that? Let's see how much you guys are thinking right now. What do I mean? How is waham how is suspicion both virtuous and vicious? Yes.
Suspicion, as a virtue, it can be like knowing if someone is just acting like they want to do it, or if they want to do it, but the bad side is that you can get over suspicious.
Excellent. Very smart boy. Give him one salawat to Muhammad. I've done this class in several cities, this discussion. Whenever I sit there and I write these two, there's a blank stare on the majority of the people's faces. Right? This young man, mashallah, very beautifully. There are people that we should suspect. There are people that we should not suspect. Okay? What I mean by that is that the news they bring to us, their intentions, what they want to achieve from us, right? The nifaq, the hypocrisy, right? All that comes from this department. The problem is that sometimes we have it mixed, right? We accept from those that we should suspect, and we suspect those that we should accept. Islam says, Quran says, a fasiq comes to you with news, fatabayyanu, research it, look at it, right? Just because it's all packaged by CNN or MSNBC or Fox News, late breaking news, has to be true. It's on CNN. No, that moment you should suspect. If a mu'min brother is trying to do something khair and good, you should not suspect them. There are people in the community who, mashallah, recite du'as very well. And they're always given small, very small, mundane examples. They are given the mic to always recite du'a kamel, du'a tawassul, whatever the case may be. And all you hear sometimes of people is that, oh, this guy loves the mic. Loves the mic. Oh, but he's reciting du'a kamel, man. Maybe he enjoys it. Maybe that's his khidmah to Allah. Right? The suspicion, the idea of the eyes that we have of suspicion is killing our community. And those people that are running amok in our countries, we think, oh, they're there for goodness. Let's be careful. So this idea of suspecting right and wrong comes from this wahm idea. The other virtuous side is that you become somebody who is clever. Maybe that's not a good word. It has a very negative connotation. Wise is a good word. Thank you very much. Hakim. Okay? And as you live your life, to my elders, you become a little bit wiser to find out what the reality is. Right? Our young guys are still a little bit naive in a good way, where we kind of believe that no, it can't be that bad. Like I still remember I was, very small story, but I remember I was in Qom, I was going to my class and dropping my daughter off at her nursery school. And it was right beside my house. Anyways, so we hopped in a taxi, we left her water bottle on the front steps of the house that I lived at. Okay? And we left, we totally forgot about it. When we found out that we left the water bottle there, I dropped her to school, I came back, and the water bottle was gone. Someone grabbed it. She was 4 years old. And when I told her, she was devastated. Not because of the water bottle. She asked me, Baba, why would somebody take someone else's water bottle? And I looked at her, and for a moment, her world collapsed in front of her. Because she thought, oh my God, everyone are angels, right? And slowly, bit by bit now, you end up now becoming a little bit wiser. One of the silver linings of every hardship that we go through is, with every single hardship, my elders, every single hardship, the dunya unveils itself slowly to you. When you start to realize this is a place really not to attach yourself, not to get too comfortable in it, you kind of guzar, you kind of go through it, and you get to you get to your eternity. That comes from what? From wahm. Okay, to be creative. For example, in tabligh actions. There's so much great work right now being done to propagate the deen. Be it movies made, cartoons made, books written, right, crafts, plays, all these things are done in terms of a virtue for the deen. That comes from this idea of wahm. The vicious side, however, is that you become somebody who is sly. You know what sly is? Chalak in Urdu, right? Clever can be positive, but sly is like, there's always a negative intention to it. Cunning is good. Cunning is very good. Yeah, sly/cunning. Right? But there are people that when you talk to and you do some business, you know you're getting ripped off this guy. This guy is ripping me off for sure. Sly, cunning, tez, chalak in the most negative way. It all comes from wahm. Hope that makes sense to you guys? My young guys who don't know what to do? Sly, cunning, you know what cunning means? Yeah, okay. One more vicious side of wahm. Hopefully you can see where the battles now inside of us are taking place in the various departments. Because knowing all this is one thing, living it is a different thing altogether. The ego resides in the wahm area. That's where the ego is. Yeah, that's when you start to think you're greater than you are. Or I start to think I'm greater than I am. Yeah, you could say it's a desire for me to have, this idea of respect, maybe, but really this is where we kind of fool ourselves in thinking that I'm greater than I am. Right? When Imam Ali talks about the idea that the origin of the human being is a najis liquid, and his ending is dust in the grave, in between he's a vessel of feces, that's all he is, and still he thinks that he knows everything. That's because he's trying to destroy this inside of us, and that comes from this wahm. So far so good? Al-quwwat ghadabiyya, al-quwwat shahwiyya, al-quwwat wahmiyya. The fourth is what? I love that response. The fourth is what? This is the best thing in Urdu. This has everything. This should be the emoji in my iPhone right here. This year. Great. Al-quwwat aqaliyya. The intellect. Aqal. This is the only department of the four that only has virtues. You'll never hear this person is too logical, or he's too intellectual, or he, no, it's a virtue. To understand the role of the aql is to understand the corporate structure of our corporation of the nafs. So this is, if we're going to start off by establishing the business called corporate nafs, we have these 4 departments now. To understand what the role of this guy is, this department, we have to first understand what the corporate structure is. Before I get to that board, any questions here so far? Yes?
You said that the intellect, I think it was I remember you said that one of those adds to the intellect.
Yes, you are right. It adds to the intellect.
So then,
So it actually weakens the intellect here.
yeah, so one of those weakens the intellect, and I said I think was creativity, like something improves the intellect.
I don't know if I said anything improves it. I mean, it could be, right? Ultimately, when you use all these for virtue, it improves your intellect. But this one for sure weakens it, right? When you become angry, or even when you become more desire, satanic, that weakens the intellect. For sure. But the intellect itself is all virtuous. Okay, so can I erase this? Any questions before I move on? Is it clear? Okay. So what does our corporate structure look like? Who's reporting to who? And where does each department lie? Or where should they lie? Is actually the crux of our discussion today. Okay? So after identifying the 4 departments, we have to identify our corporate structure. Okay? Our reporting structure. Hopefully, inshallah, you know where I'm going with this. Down here is our anger. Beside that is our desire. Beside him is our creativity. The CEO of our corporation is who? Intellect. If I could summarize the role of the prophets across the board from Adam to Khatam, it is to get this corporate structure inside of the human being. That's it. That's all they want to do. That's all they want to do. Because the reality is that this is as hard as it is to live. This is very difficult to create inside of us. This should be our corporate structure inside of us. Where? I'll give examples now, okay? Let's say, for example, now somebody comes and makes me angry. All the example, okay? It's a little bit silly, I'm sorry. Angry comes and they knock on the door. They say, I am angry. Okay? So quickly on the WhatsApp group, guys, we have anger. Let's meet in the boardroom quickly for a quick meeting, okay? The file is given to the anger department. They review it. Who made you angry? What happened? What time? Who was involved? Okay? And then what they do, they take the file, they go up to the elevator, they go up to Mr. Intellect's office, they knock on the door of the Intellect, so this is our anger file. He'll either approve or he'll deny. So for example, somebody makes you angry. This is person X. Makes you angry. You go to your anger. Say, I'm furious. They take your report. They say, oh, your mother made you angry because she asked you to do your homework, or clean your room, or shower before you go to bed, or you can't have chocolate for breakfast, or Nutella for dinner. So you're angry, you're fuming mad. And you go to your department and you say, this is my folder. They take the folder, they go up to floor 110, mashallah, and they knock on the Intellect. So here is my thing. It says, oh, your mother denied. Swallow your anger. Move forward. Or you end up talking about what's happening right now in the Gaza Strip. The zulm against the Palestinians. Zionism everywhere. Anger now goes up to the 110th floor. Says, here you go. I'm angry at Zionism. They say approved. Only the approval of the existence of the emotion, not the expression of it. Expression is a completely different topic altogether. Okay? So the intellect now should do this. So for example, I want this. I want to eat this, drink this, I want to love this person, blah, blah, blah. They take that desire all the way up to intellect. They knock on his door. Here is the folder. If they say, okay, for example, this haram food, denied. This halal food, accepted. This denied non-mahram, denied. This person who's mahram, denied. Etc., etc. And so on and so forth. Basically what it is that the intellect is made to do what? Made to guide these three departments. He is the hakim of the entire corporation. The word aqala in Arabic literally means what? To tie something together. Back in the day, the Arabs would wear their thobe and they would have this rope around their head. Now they have something else on Saladin's head, but they have a rope around their head they use to tie their horse to whatever tree or whatever there is. That was called the aqala in Arabic. The aqal is meant to do what? Meant to tie these three together. To not get out of control. The problem is, that's great on paper, right? The reality is that when I'm fuming mad at somebody, my wife, my in-laws, some alim, my mother, God forbid, somebody, then the anger comes in and says, Mr. Intellect, get out of my office. Today, I'm the CEO. I run the show for one day. I say what I want, I do what I want, I email what I want, I video what I want, and then I make all sorts of damages, and then when I go back to my department and Intellect comes back in, that's when I say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say all that. Please forgive me. Or I have a desire, I shouldn't have a desire, I act on that desire, I remove Intellect from this equation, I act on my desire, I enjoy my sin. When this comes back to its proper position, then astaghfirullah rabbi wa atubu ilayh. Because my intellect now is back in control. The kamal is not to have the intellect back in control after the act. It's before the act. Now you might think, that's not really possible. I'll give you one example from the life of Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam. The war of Ahzab, the war of Khandaq. Right? Story that you've heard several times. Look at it through this lens. Look at it through this lens. He's on the chest of Amr ibn Abdawad, correct? About to finish the man. What does he do? Spits. Excellent. He spits in the face of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Now, Mawla was a human being, just like you and I. He was a man like you and I, to a certain degree. When there was a spit on his face, he became angry. The report went to the anger department. File was given to Team Anger. What happened? In other words, spat in my face. I was on top of him during the war of Ahzab. Okay. They take the file, they go all the way up, 110th floor, intellect. Here you go, sir, here's the file. What do? The intellect reminds Ali. So not your enemy, enemy of God. Get up, go for a walk, come back, finish him for the right reasons. He was fuming mad. Why the walk? Sometimes it takes a while for the file to get back up to the intellect. Sometimes the elevator is broken, the email is down, sometimes the internet is slow. Give it 2 seconds for them to read the file, then send the email back. That's why Islam says don't act right away. Give the aql a moment to hazm and digest everything that's going on, and then it'll guide you. So literally when Islam says to change your position, one thing we have in hadith, when you're fuming mad, it sounds weird to a lot of my youth, is change your physical position. If you're sitting, stand up. If you're standing, sit down. If you're lying down, stand up. Right? Move around, walk around. Allow the report to go up to intellect. It will then guide you what to do. Sometimes we don't even allow that to happen. Let this structure take its form. Yes. Good debate? Question? Oh, really? Okay, thank you. Okay? So corporate nafs, we are trying to understand that these three are very powerful departments. And the existence of these departments is not the problem. The problem is that when they come in and they begin to take over, the actual CEO of the department. So they'll say, look, intellect, you're gone, anger is here, that's a problem. Anger, you're gone, desire is here, that's a problem. Desire, you're gone, wahm is here, that's a problem. We've seen people, right, who just live instinctively. Whatever they want, they get. Also, have you seen the ones, ilahuhu hawa, who have taken their lowly desires as their God? Their desire is their CEO. People who are completely angry, you've seen them, right? There's no filter, there's no control, sometimes in our own community, in our own families. They'll say whatever they want, doesn't matter how it sounds. They'll email without reading it, to send it to the entire, GTA community, no problem. And afterwards they'll have a problem. Always remember one thing, when words or actions leave you, you are a slave to those words. You can't put those words back in your mouth. Especially nowadays with WhatsApp, everything's a screenshot. You might have deleted that message, but it's already been screenshotted. It's there forever. So please be very careful. Use the intellect, the power of the intellect, to control these things, to tie them together. Where now you come along with me, but I'm running the show, not you. Be angry, but I'll tell you when to be angry. Have desire, but I'll tell you when to have desire. Have this wahm, but let me tell you what to do. That's the insan, right? That's why this is the one factor that makes you, as a human being, afdal than every other creation. Otherwise, if this is gone, we become what? We become animals. This rope is gone, and now free reign, mashallah. Instinct. If your desire, act on it. If you're angry, kill somebody. It doesn't matter. Other questions? What's my class for today? Any questions? No? That clear? Oh. Yes. Yes. Hands up.
There's a question.
Oh, please. Sorry, made you get up. I'm sorry, thank you. Yeah. I mean, this idea of abuse that we talked about is not just physical abuse, it's also verbal abuse as well. Sometimes in anger, allowing your tongue to get out of control. And you know enough to know that sometimes verbal scars never heal. Physical ones might heal. The bruise will come, the bruise will go, and you'll forget about the bruise. But verbal scars last a lifetime. Not just for husband and wife, sometimes for parent and child too. But inshallah, that's our discussion in our last talk on Thursday, raising a pious child. I'll talk about that as well. Yes?
What if you feel all of those at the same time?
Great question. That's a great question. What if you feel all of that at the exact same time? So I'm angry, I'm desired, I want something, and I'm also creative. That's why we need to make this guy as strong as possible. That if these three come at their door, he can handle it. How do we do that? Al-ilmul misbahul aql. Right? We have to make sure that we are constantly searching for knowledge. Educate yourself. It's the misbah of the aql. Misbah means what? It's the lantern. They say fanus in Farsi. A lantern. You know those old school lanterns that you open the door and you light the wick and you carry on? Yeah, that's called a fanus in thing. That where there's darkness, that will guide the way. That's the misbah of the aql. If the aql gets into darkness, it's ilm that comes in and rescues that darkness. Right? So constantly be a student of the deen, a student of life, inshallah. Great question. Oh, the wife comment really struck a nerve. Talk out work-related stress on the wife because it's very convenient, showing great akhlaq to the rest of the world and totally different person at home. Yes. So that is, inshallah, my commercial for Wednesday. For Wednesday. Wednesday's my topic is the Islamic family structure. We'll talk about this idea of respecting the family, husband and wife, parent and child, etc., etc. Even a 5-minute conversation seems difficult with a husband, as his eyes and focus are always on his phone, mashallah. Yeah. Inshallah. Any questions on the floor here? Yes. So I don't know if you came there or not, but I described one department is called wahm in Arabic, meaning sometimes we have the idea of being wise, making good decisions. Sometimes we have a negative side where we end up being somebody who, likes to hurt somebody, God forbid, with our tongue. That's all creativity. Yes?
I have an. So what if you feel none of this?
That's not possible. So there are moments where, so you go either ifrat or tafrit, right? Either it's all or it's nothing. No, you're bound to feel some desire. Even now, you want to be here, you feel desire. So it's either, that you feel one or you feel all of them, but not to the point where you never feel that. That's what makes you a human being. Any more questions? Yes?
What ways can you do to calm your anger?
That's a great question. Any ideas?
Go to the CEO. Like you said,
go to the CEO. Yeah, you're right.
You change your position.
You change your position, for example, physically. The one thing that helps me is that I physically leave the area that causes the anger.
Or change your mind as well.
Or change your mind, but sometimes, looking at that person. Look, the example I'll give you quickly, I know it's past my time, I'm sorry. The example I'll give you again is a khutbah of Fadak of Sayyidah Fatimah Zahra. Salamu alayha. The beauty of the khutbah beyond the words are incredible. But the initial setup of the khutbah of Shahzadi is incredible. Think about it for a moment, how angry she was. It's okay to say that, she was angry. How angry she was about the Fadak whole incident. That here was this man who took away, it wasn't about a piece of land, obviously, right? This was a symbol of love of my father for me. Very, very close to me. Okay? Taken away from me for no apparent reason. Now she's at a mosque where she knows the people responsible are listening to her for the very first time. Imagine that amount of dhulm done to you, and you are now face to face with that person. How fuming mad must you be? Fuming mad. You want him to feel the same thing I felt. She put a partition up, entered the mosque. The mosque is completely quiet, waiting for her to start. What's the first thing she does in the khutbah? She praises Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She praises Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That was me fuming mad. I'd start attacking that because she praised Allah up to intellect. Right? So sometimes it's, you can change position, but when you're mad at that moment and the person's in front of you, it's very hard now to control that anger. So for me at least, I leave the room, or I walk away, or I go to the bathroom, or I splash some water on my face, right? One thing that we have in hadith is to do wudu, but sometimes that's not really practical, right? Like you're angry, you're doing wudu, right? It doesn't really work sometimes. But it's the idea the water cools you down, right? Physically and from, yes?
Sometimes you don't even have a choice to walk away from it.
Yeah, you don't. You're right.
Especially in corporate work.
No, you're right.
Somebody's having a go at you. And
you're right. You're right. Sometimes you take it and then you kind of, you do your best to distract yourself. It's very hard. I'm not saying it's easy. It's very hard. It's very hard. But, like with every fight with anger, when you should not be angry and you choose not to be angry, you walk away, let's say, for example. Or as men, we sometimes choose to be the mature ones in an argument with my wife. It's very difficult, but that's what we should be doing. Right? We should be the ones who are always the leader of the house. We should be the ones who are always calming them. Not, right? Like the Ahlul Bayt were always about the idea that they would have their own principles to reflect onto others. Not that, if you're angry, I'll show you my anger. If you're jahil, I'll show you my jahalat. Right? If you're beautiful, I'll show you my beauty. No. They weren't a reflection of the person in front of them. They have their own principles. So even if you are spewing fire at me, I'll spew water at you. Right? You're spewing jahl at me, I'll spew ilm at you. Right? And we have umpteen examples of that. Not easy, but that sometimes is but it gets easier as you get older, but when you're this young, then sometimes it's hard. It is hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it is hard. But there are ways to do it. Whatever works for you. When I was your age, I used to scream inside my pillow. That's okay. But in my room, not in front of my parents. Never in front of my parents. There's never a moment, kids, where you should ever raise your voice to your parents. Ever a moment. Last question? No? We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to inshallah give us that tawfiq to understand what's being discussed and to apply it, inshallah. We ask you, Allah, that whatever we discuss in these discussions, inshallah, that we use it to become better husbands and better wives and better parents and better kids and better servants of Allah, and ultimately to be worthy and ashabil of Zaman al-Zuhur, inshallah. We ask you, Allah, to forgive our sins and those of our parents, and to weaken the hands of the enemies of Islam, and to strengthen those who are fighting the fight on the front line, inshallah.